should start by saying that I've worked night shifts for most of my adult life, and nothing has ever bothered me the way that night did. Not the drunks, not the break-ins, not even the 2 times I had knives pulled on me. What happened inside that old distribution warehouse in Dayton, Ohio still plays in my head with this strange metallic clarity, as if the memory itself is echoing. I remember the flickering overhead lights, the concrete sweating from the rain outside, and the hum of the outdated security system that always seemed half a second behind the real world. But what really stuck with me was the first wrong noise, a sound I'd never heard before, echoing down an empty loading bay. It wasn't footsteps or machinery or even a voice. It was like someone dragging a sheet of thin metal across the floor, steady and slow, getting closer every time it returned. Sent by Marcus H., Dayton, Ohio. My job was routine. Walk the perimeter, check the doors, monitor the cameras, write down the same report I'd been writing for 8 months. The place used to be part of a shipping hub in the 90s, but most of the building had gone dead since the company moved operations out of state. Only one section still stored old equipment, and that's the part I oversaw. It was around 1:15 a.m. when the automated system, the one responsible for controlling the internal gates, glitched. The metal gate separating the main hall from the loading bay rattled, then slid open 3 feet before shuddering to a stop. Just enough space for someone to slip through. I frowned, walked over, and pressed the manual override. The light flashed yellow, meaning the system wasn't responding. Great. I logged it and went back toward the security office to reset it from the terminal. But halfway down the hallway, that sound started. Slow, metallic, deliberate, like a long metal ruler being pulled across stone. Screep, screep, screep. 3 seconds of dragging, 5 seconds of silence, 3 seconds of dragging, repeating exactly. The rule of the sound, though I didn't understand it at the time, was consistency. It never changed tempo or length. Not until later. I turned back and shined my flashlight through the gap in the gate. Nothing. The loading bay was empty except for an old forklift and a few crates wrapped in faded blue plastic. The dragging started again and my chest tightened. The restriction of the thing, whatever it was the gate. That gap. It couldn't cross through an opening smaller than shoulder width. I didn't know that yet either. I only realized after replaying the footage later. I tried the override again. No luck. The gate stayed open just those 3 mocking feet. Back in the control room, the cameras flickered. Glitched. Distorted. Not all of them, just the ones facing the loading bay. The feed displayed that same repeating screech, though there shouldn't have been any audio. Old system. No mics. The hum of the monitors deepened, almost vibrating the desk as the dragging sound looped too steadily to be natural. Screep, screep, screep. I reset the system, hoping it would fix the door, but instead every interior gate in the facility locked itself, all except the malfunctioning one, which remained half open. I tried calling my supervisor, but my phone had gone black. Not dead, just black. Touchscreen unresponsive. Clock frozen. I reached for the landline and the dial tone stuttered like a scratched record. That's when the temperature dropped. Not dramatically, not like a horror movie cold breath. Just a subtle, unnatural shift, like the air pressure had been sucked out of the building and replaced with something hollow. I went back to the cameras, flipping between angles of the loading bay. At first everything looked normal, static, empty. Then one of the crates shifted half an inch. Not slid, not tipped, shifted straight sideways. I hit zoom. The picture blurred just slightly. Then something appeared behind the forklift. Something almost human. Tall, rigid, arms too long and too narrow, tapering to points instead of hands. Its head was angled wrong, chin too close to its chest, like its neck wasn't built to hold the weight. It didn't move at first. Then the dragging sound started again, but this time it wasn't from the speakers. It was from the hallway behind me. I whipped around, shining my flashlight into the corridor. Nothing. Nothing but the fading echo of metal. Screep, screep, screep. This was the signature behavior. The sound always came from the wrong direction. It manipulated distance, pulling attention away from where it truly was. A trick of perception that made direction meaningless. I started backing up toward the exit door, thinking I could at least get to the parking lot. But when I reached for the steel handle, it didn't budge. locked by the same system that froze my phone. That's when the dragging stopped. Total silence, heavy, pressurizing. I turned slowly toward the hallway. Standing about 30 feet away was the figure from the camera. Taller in person. Shoulders angled sharply upward, like its bones formed triangles under its skin. If it had skin. Its entire body looked like a sheet of stretched, pale material pulled tight over metal rods. It took a step, but it didn't bend its knees. The legs shifted like sliding rails. Then it lifted one arm and tapped the wall. Tap, tap, tap. This was its escalation pattern. When the dragging stopped, the tapping began. And whenever the tapping began, it meant it had chosen you. Zero hesitation. Zero randomness. Once it tapped 3 times, it would close the distance twice as fast each time you looked away. I kept my eyes locked on it, backing toward the control room. Tap, tap, tap. A third tap. Then it vanished. It didn't run, didn't blur, didn't fade. One blink, gone. My stomach dropped. There was only one place it could have gone. Behind one of the blind corners between me and the loading bay. I moved backward carefully, not daring to break eye contact with the space where it had been. My breath shook. My shoes scuffed too loudly. Everything felt amplified. If you're enjoying these true horror stories, make sure to subscribe to Ultra Spooky and hit that notification bell so you never miss when we upload new nightmares. The tapping resumed, this time from inside the control room. Tap, tap, tap. Slowly, shaking, I turned toward the doorway. Nothing there. Tap, tap, tap. My eyes darted to the monitors. Every camera but one was static. The last camera showed the entity crouched in the corner of the control room where I couldn't see it directly. Crouched impossibly low, limbs folded like wire hangers, head tilted almost upside down, watching me through the lens. I froze. It unfolded slightly, just an inch, then dragged one pointed hand across the floor of the room. Scree! Then the monitor glitched to black. I didn't wait. I sprinted out, ran past the short hallway, past the gate, and straight into the loading bay. I don't know why I chose the bay. Instinct, maybe, or stupidity. All I knew was that the gate was still stuck, half open, and when I squeezed through, the metal edges scraped my jacket. The dragging sound started again. But this time it wasn't steady. It was frantic, erratic, hungry. Scree, 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 scree. The entity appeared just beyond the gate, jamming its 2 wide shoulders against the frame. That was its restriction. It couldn't compress itself. It couldn't change its width. It could distort, fold, twist, but not narrow. It slammed against the frame once, twice. The metal bowed. I ran for the emergency exit at the far end of the bay, locked. Then the side door, locked. Every exit sealed except the one the thing couldn't fit through. The creature pressed its head sideways against the gate, trying to slip its skull through the gap. Bones, or whatever passed for bones, creaked like bending rebar. Then I remembered the forklift. I sprinted to it, jumped on, and turned the key in a single desperate motion. Miraculously, it started. I shoved the throttle forward, driving the forklift straight into the gate as the entity smashed its head against the gap again. The impact forced the gate closed another inch. The creature shrieked, not a scream, not anything human. A violent scraping metallic shrill, like 2 steel sheets vibrating out of sync. Skrill! I rammed the gate again, and it finally slammed shut, locking the thing out. But that wasn't the end, because the scraping sound didn't fade. It continued, on the other side, pacing, dragging its fingers along the gate's length, over and over, slow again, controlled, as if it wasn't angry, just waiting. Screep, screep, screep. When morning arrived and maintenance finally opened the gate, I nearly collapsed onto the pavement outside. I quit that day, but the sound never left my head. 3 days later, I heard the dragging again, outside my apartment door. Screep, screep, screep. When I checked the peephole, there was nothing. But the dragging continued. And yesterday, the tapping began again. Tap, tap, tap. This was just one of many terrifying true stories from the Ultra Spooky archives. Stay tuned for our next tale of horror.